All right, guys. I do want to take a little bit. We do this every week, obviously, but I want to go ahead for the new participants on here in the workshop. You're not required to chime in, but we would like for you to listen and get as much information from this as you can. And what's great about these is that they are getting recorded. They do eventually get put onto the website and archived on the website. It's really easy. cbabaseball.org. You'll find all the workshops right on the front page. So it's very easy to go back and see what you missed. If you aren't, if you have missed the last few weeks or so, these are slowly growing. It looks like we have 44 people on right now, and we're missing a few guys that normally do come on, but it's we don't expect you to be here every week, but obviously as often as you can, the more you're going to get out of it. We will have college guys on here from time to time. They're unable to speak to you, but they can listen in. And that's something where it's an NCAA thing, so we don't want to cause them any trouble. And so we just kind of let them join in to watch and listen. And when they are able to speak at some point, when that whole quiet period is over, then they'll be able to give in some more insight and some advice and stuff like that. We do have Coach Tim Bloom with us, who's been a coach with us for a few years now. Longtime high school coach, longtime travel coach. Just a really good guy to have on your team from the recruiting side and from the development side. Coach Phil Van Horn, who's been, I feel like I've known him forever. Coincidence, because he's been on this earth forever. But he's been in the college game for a long time. West Coast Division I coach for a number of years. Been in the pro game for a while. Also helps with us at CBA here in Los Angeles. We have Pedro Maldonado, who helps run our CBA Texas teams. And he just a wonderful human being. Right, Pedro?
That's it. That's all I do.
And we got Espinosa's here.
And looks like David Espinosa's back. Good friend of mine, one of the best pure hitters I've been around as a player, who will be probably with us momentarily. So if he has anything to say, today is part 2 of Two Strike Hitting, and he wanted to get on last week. He said, quote, "I wish I could have got on. Two Strike Hitting is my thing." So that's what he told me. So
nice.
Here, I mean, David, are you able to hear or speak? I know you're in the car right now. You're in the car?
Yeah, I'm actually on the way to my parents to pick up my son, so I could probably only be on like maybe 7 minutes, 10 minutes.
That's okay.
But hey, I wanted to get on. I lose track of days sometimes.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah. I don't know. What do you guys want me to talk about when it comes to Two Strike Hitting?
Well, last week we only spent about 20 minutes last week because we had Mario Soto with us last week, who's going to continue with us going forward. It's just really right now he's on a flight going somewhere. But really we just got into it for a bit, and I did want David on last week because watching David hit, whether he was at the top of the order or the middle of the lineup or wherever you put him, he was always the same guy. You knew what you were going to get. You knew you were going to get somebody who was going to see a lot of pitches, be aggressive when he was supposed to. Only swing at pitches that really at the end of the day. So let's, I kind of wanted to talk on that a bit. We did touch on, how, and we've talked about it the last couple of weeks, that if you have a strong two-strike approach, generally you're a better hitter early when it counts. So just a little bit of feedback from David, who was, just a little background on him really fast. I know he's got like 6 minutes left, but first rounder back in '99 with the Reds.
2000. I'm not that old.
2000, not that old. Sorry. 2000 with the Cincinnati Reds. Played a number of years professionally. Got up to AAA with the Reds, right? The Reds, and then
the Tigers.
The Tigers. Sorry, Toledo, and then then I played with him a few years in independent ball.
Air Hogs.
And got directly into scouting after playing. I think the last year was 2015, 14.
Yeah, 2015 is my last year playing.
Then got directly into scouting with the Miami Marlins. Recently took a job with the Cincinnati Reds as an international cross-checker in scouting, kind of overlooking Latin America. Is that right?
Yep,
Okay.
got it.
I feel like I scripted that. All right, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Okay.
money.
Yeah. So, floor is yours.
All right. So Joe mentioned something about, and I really believe this. You know, if you can hit with 2 strikes, I mean, it makes it that much easier to hit because you can be a little more selective. And I think you can tell which hitters do not like hitting with 2 strikes because they're constantly swinging at pitchers' pitches early in the count, and whatnot. So, but I'll start out like this. I think everyone has their own 2-strike approach. Some people, well, most people, I think, don't choke up. I guess, you know, if they have some kind of 2-strike approach, they probably, if anything, probably shorten up mentally. You know what that means? You know, mentally, maybe try not to do too much, just be short, you know, and try to see the ball, let it get deep. I personally would choke up mentally and physically. I choked up on the bat with 2 strikes, and I got a tad closer to the plate. Now, when I became a better 2-strike hitter was when and I don't know, and this is up for debate, but when I got to AAA, my hitting coach told me something that it kind of, like, it was like the light bulb went off, you know, for me with 2 strikes. I was a decent 2-strike hitter up until that point, but he told me, hey, with 2 strikes, just look for the ball. And that kind of clicked for me. I was like, wait a second, that makes a lot of sense. You know, again, I think by that point, I had already been playing a bunch of years. I had a ton of at-bats under my belt. I have seen every type of pitch you can see. See at that point. I've seen good breaking balls, good changeups, splits, plus fastballs. I've seen all that stuff. Growing up, and I think it's like this for everybody, with 2 strikes, look for the ball away and react in. And that's the way I hit with 2 strikes up until then. But it created a lot of problems for me for the ball in. I mean, I was getting blown up inside, or the ball was just getting way too deep on me. But when I bought in and I said, I just want to look for the ball, I became a better hitter. Granted, I still let the ball come a little bit. My mental approach was like, all right, let the fastball get a little deeper and just look for the ball. And I just trusted my eyes. At that point, I had a decent idea of the strike zone. I knew where the ball had to be for it to be a strike. And I just trusted my eyes. And that's how that's what I did. And it made me a better hitter because early in the count, you know, I could look for my pitch. Granted, I walked a lot in my career, but in most at-bats, you know, obviously depending on the situation. But if the at-bat allowed me to swing at the pitch, I was trying to swing at the first pitch. If they threw me a fastball or something that I had good timing on in the middle of the plate that I can handle consistently, I was hacking. I mean, I wasn't taking cock shots down the middle, you know. I was looking to hit. But since I was confident enough with 2 strikes, I didn't swing at that pitch on the corner. You know, yeah, I would get behind maybe, and obviously at that point, yeah, the pitcher might have the advantage, but I had so much confidence with 2 strikes that I felt like, you know, at some point, like, he's going to make a mistake, and I just got to hit it. I just can't miss it. And the mistake might come with 2 strikes. So that was really my mindset, you know. I choked up mentally. I didn't try to do too much, but I also choked up physically, grabbed the bat a little shorter, and I just looked for the ball, and I trusted my eyes.
There you go. That's it. We can end it. No, but
Easy, right?
it is. It's an easy concept to understand. It just takes time and practice, obviously. And so like for our guys, especially our young guys that we have, a lot of times, we work with having guys taking a strike just so they can get comfortable hitting deep in counts and not necessarily becoming free swingers without having that mental preparation going into the at bats. And it's okay to hit with a strike on you. Just like it's okay to hit with 2 strikes on you. So just trying to teach guys to have that patience and to be comfortable deeper in counts and be comfortable with 2 strikes. Obviously, you want to be aggressive if guys are hanging, 80 poo breaking balls or 80 poo fastballs over the plate, right? Then yeah, obviously, let's be aggressive there. But that still takes preparation on deck, and preparation well before getting on deck. On deck is your last chance to get timing down and prepare for that at bat. So if you don't, just a little nugget here before I know David's got to go, but for the guys out there, if you don't feel on time or you don't feel like you're seeing the ball well, probably a great idea not to swing at whatever that first pitch is, right? If you're not feeling that timing or that rhythm at the plate. So if you guys have questions, feel free. If you don't want to speak up, go ahead and type it in the chat bar. I know that Phil and Coach Tim have put stuff in there to kind of remind you that the chat bar is there for you to ask those questions. David, I got a question.
Yeah.
So when you would hit, right? And I was always like, I always watched you because I was like, how does he take these pitches? Like with 2 strikes, you're taking pitches that look really, really good. And the umpires are like, they look at you to get a reaction off of you, and then they make their call. And usually it goes in your favor. What is it? What are you looking? I mean, you said you just look for the ball, but you're not looking up, down, in or out. You're just looking for, seeing something big, or what is it?
I think this is the thing. I think when I bought into this, I had already had thousands of professional at bats, and I was just looking for the ball because I trusted my eyes. I trusted the muscle memory, like if I just look for the ball and I see, and my eyes are telling me, oh, that ball's away. It's incredible. The muscle memory just takes over, and you take the pass at the ball that you would take when it's away or down and away or whatever.
David, take that idea, because the guys that we have on the call with us here, it's hard for them to understand the sheer baseball IQ of someone who plays 5 years of minor league ball, let alone 6, 7, 8 years of minor league ball. Just the things you pick up. How did that compare differently when you were a sophomore, junior, and senior in high school and playing high school ball?
When in high school, it broke. My dad started like knocking on my door here and distracted me. Can you repeat that again? Did I make sure I heard you correctly?
Well, how did what you did in high school, how was that different from after the natural intuition you had gained from pro ball? By that time you had real baseball IQ, which is hard for our guys to really understand. But compare what you were when you wrapped up playing in pro ball to who you were your sophomore, junior, and senior year of high school.
I think in high school, and I mentioned like, hey, I looked for the ball. When I had 2 strikes, I just kind of looked for the ball away, fastball, and when you look away, it kind of helps you to stay on soft stuff. And I think in high school, you can probably hit this way, look for the ball away, the ball travel a little bit, because in the high school level, they don't really throw in, they don't throw in. It's in pro ball and it's not even in pro ball like in A ball. I'm talking about once you get to double A, that's when I really saw pitchers really commanding the ball better inside, So I think it's like anything. You have like a base, and I think a good base when you're in high school or middle school is that you get to 2 strikes, choke up a little bit, let the ball get a little deeper, look for the ball out over the plate, like on the outside corner. That way you know where the outside corner is. You know what I mean? So I think when you have tons of at-bats and you're already playing professional baseball, your eyes already know where the ball away is. Whereas, like, when you're younger, you just don't have the amount of at-bats. And you kind of have to consciously know where the ball outside is when you're younger. Do you understand what I mean?
No. And that's kind of reinforcing, I think, what our idea has been here, for younger guys, is that you're not going to get beat in a whole lot at this stage,
Yeah.
not-
Yeah. And
not
pro
even
ball
that-
guys are throwing hard. They're 90, mid-90s. Mid-90s in, geez, and you're looking for the ball away, you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
You know?
It's almost backwards there. Once you see 92, 93, now it's like you got to be early, and not be, you're going to cheat more to the fastball a little bit more than you are, at the youth level.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
even at the Division I, college level, there's not very many guys at all, whether they're throwing 85 or 95 that are going to command games, and that's just,
No, they're not. They're not going to throw in. They're not going to throw in. Hey, I'm going to stay on this call. I'm going to go get my
Oh,
son
yeah.
and bring him in the car real quick. So you guys keep doing your thing. I'll be back in like 5 minutes.
perfect.
All right.
You have a beautiful ceiling of, what is that, a RAV4?
It's the Hummer, baby.
Is it? Oh man, one of the few guys that still drive a vintage Hummer H2. Since the day he signed with Cincinnati. But Phil, I mean, just to kind of build off that a little bit from the two-strike standpoint, or not even two-strike, just hitting in general. When you're in Division I baseball as a coach, you've seen a lot of games there. Games that are won and lost are a lot of times are dictated upon pitch command or pitching command, right? And a lot of times, like if guys have your number and pitchers don't have, like if hitters have your pitcher's number, right, and your pitcher doesn't have command over the inner half, which is most of the time, it's going to be a high scoring game. I think, I was a part of 2 Division I programs, and I never saw, we had Steven Strasburg who rarely pitched in. So,
Yeah.
So
Joe, I think two-strike hitting is a mentality. One of the things that high school guys, I don't think understand well unless they've had an older brother or someone really close to them that's gone through Division I, II, III, NAIA, AJs. They don't understand how even often the competition is. Sure, one team may be better, but really they may not understand how even it is. And strikeouts are difference makers. Especially if a pitcher strikes out more than 6 a game, that's a big deal in college baseball. In high school, a really good pitcher is going to strike out 5 or 6 guys just about every time out. In college ball, in the Big West, Pac-12, Mountain West, WAC, all those guys, West Coast Conference, they're not going to do that. That's a big deal. So coaches are going to be mad at players if they strike out more than one time a game. In fact, they strike out 2 times, they're usually not going to see a 3rd time unless they're really going well. Hey, Pete Torres, go ahead and thank you. We appreciate that. Your mic was open. So I think first to impress upon players that it's very important not to strike out more than 1 time in a game or at all. And the opposite is true. When I was a college coach, one of the things we did often is as soon as the game was over, we grabbed the stat sheet and we went right to our strikeouts, how many times our hitters struck out, how many times they walked. Then we'd look at errors, and then we'd go to the other side and see how many times their pitchers walked someone or struck out some of our guys. Usually in conference games, the Pac-12, Big West, WAC, Mountain West, West Coast, that'll tell you the story of the game right there, because you want to put the ball in play to challenge their defense. What if the other team only has 1 or 2 really good defenders? And it's not one of their shortstop or their middle infield, second base, center field, which are normally where the premium defenders are. You have a chance to make plays and get on base. And that's the one thing I'd like to impress on guys. If you want to go ahead and make a difference to a college coach in your high school games, don't strike out. That mentality, it's got to be important to you. Of course, guys today learn by watching big leagues or watching some of the guys that are big name recruits, and they realize, I see, name that guy. I see a guy from Southern California who got drafted earlier this year is Pete Crow Armstrong. You may watch him in the Perfect Game All-Star game and say, hey, he struck out a couple of times, yet he got drafted in the first round. Well, I saw his high school games. He rarely struck out, and he was a free swinger. And he battled a lot with 2 strikes to foul off pitches. So, once you get to AA, AAA, and on, different ball game, guys. But in high school and getting recruited, it first starts with that mentality of strikeouts are bad. Don't strike out. Find a way to compete with 2 strikes. Here are the things that Joe and David and some of the guys are talking about that make a difference. Choke up a little bit. Get a little closer to the plate. Take away the middle or outer third. Have an approach. There are a lot of ways to do that with the machine or during practice or practice games, but that's how important it becomes. Strikeouts are difference makers in college baseball. They separate really close games.
Right. And I do want to say, I'm just kind of going through the attendees today who it's kind of cool, to see not just players from literally all over the place, Florida, Texas, California, Hawaii, but coaches literally from around the country. So Phil's here in LA, David's helping us out from South Florida, in Miami, and we have our guys in Texas, obviously. But it's just really nice to have this network of coaches come together to really to help out our players, and I really hope that you guys are soaking this in, even though like sometimes I'm not saying that Phil did this, but I'm just saying that sometimes these may drag on from time to time, but stay with it and take notes and really try to figure out how you can apply some of this stuff to, when you go to your cage work or when you get back to your next competition, which, depending on which state you live in, maybe this weekend, maybe 3 months from now, I don't know. But to really just start focusing on what's important and what we can control, and we can really control our mindset and how we approach the way we develop ourselves, and the way we take the field when it's time. We could really improve a lot of those things. We can't control what COVID does, but we can control how we're responding to this, and we could be much more proactive in how productive we are as players and coaches. So
Joe, over the last 10 years, I probably watched more college games in the state of Texas than I did in California. That's how often I was in Dallas and watching games online and then talking to coaches there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember, it wasn't that long ago, Baylor was struggling, and then they changed coaching staffs and they cut down on strikeouts in a hurry. Those guys drive the ball now, but they made it right away with the guys they had. It made a difference to cut down on strikeouts. Now, I remember, David, you attended Gulliver Prep, right?
I muted him. Let me unmute him really fast. He was
All right.
blogging, so I didn't.
I bet he did.
Let me see.
Yep, I'm here. I'm here now.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so you attended Gulliver Prep in Miami, right?
Yes.
Okay, and was Laser your coach when you were there?
No, he came in like a couple years later
Okay.
after I graduated.
But you played against and with some really solid guys the 2 or 3 years you were there in sophomore, junior, senior year, right?
Yeah. I on my high school team, we probably had like five or six guys play pro ball.
And that's abnormal. Did your coach or did your team have a 2-strike approach that you guys practiced on the field and in the cage?
Back then I don't remember, but I was going to bring that up when you were talking. I think absolutely, like in a BP routines, there needs to be a 2-strike approach round where the guy is spread out, choke. I can put something on the ball a little bit, maybe mix in like a breaking ball, just so they can get like the feel and like the mindset of that. I know that in pro ball, it just kind of varied year to year, but there were places where we had a 2-strike approach round.
Yeah. All right, Joe, we have a question. Cannon, once again, back-to-back Weeks has a question and a good one.
That's a good
So,
one.
Carlos, Bloomer, and David, does the situation, like the score and the inning and how many outs in an inning, affect two-strike approach? David, why don't you go first, then Bloomer, you're second.
All right.
No, I mean 2 strikes. I mean you gotta put the ball in play somehow. You know, you just gotta put the bat on the ball. You're not. I mean, obviously, if you're down a couple runs and you're leading off the inning and there's no strikes, yeah, I mean you have to take a strike. But when there's 2 strikes, you can't. I mean,
David, you're breaking up a little bit. Bloomer, why don't you step in? And Carlos, you're next.
I completely agree with what David said. The situation for me doesn't change because I don't want my guys to feel pressure. And so it's like, hey, you know what? 2-strike approach, first inning, third inning, seventh inning, whatever it is, score, doesn't matter. Just do your best to be confident and battle right then, not be defensive, but to be with a mindset of I'm gonna hit this baseball. To be confident. I honestly don't think that you should change your approach based on those things.
All right. And Carlos texts his answer. He said, I don't think so. You're trying to put the ball in play, whether to strike out regardless of circumstance. Joe, what did Tony Gwynn teach you guys at San Diego State about 2-strike approach?
And I think it does differ between college and professional baseball, but I think it is relevant for high school guys is that you do expand the zone. You are going to expand the zone, and if it's a good pitch that you wouldn't normally swing at earlier in the count, that you can't really expect to take your best swing, but at least you're putting the ball in play with 2 strikes, or you can foul those pitches off and possibly see another pitch that you can handle a little bit better. So it's not about, for him, it wasn't about taking your best swing with 2 strikes unless it's a really good pitch to hit. It was about, again, just putting the ball in play, expanding the zone. But he was big on it's okay to tip your cap if you get beat inside. He was big on that, and as you know, Phil, I mean, he was a guy that liked to use the off field a lot. So he really committed to hitting the ball the other way, wherever it was pitched, whether it was inside. He was a big inside out guy. He was big on, not over swinging, just taking a nice controlled swing from a balanced stance or balanced position and being able to put the ball where you want to. He was that type of guy, that type of teacher and coach. There is something to, not over swinging and not taking, daddy hacks every time you get up there, but, being, staying short to the ball. And I think now when you're watching big league games, it's a little different, it's daddy hack and every time the bat leaves the shoulder, and as I mean, most of the guys on this webinar, on this workshop, you're not going to be, I'm just going to break it to you statistically, good chance you're probably not going to be a professional hitter. You're never gonna be that guy that needs to take daddy hacks, and that's okay. If you're able to extend your career through college and have a good career there, that's something to take pride in, but to get there, you hear this all the time, stay within yourself, do what you're able to do. Don't do what you're not able to do. And with 2 strikes, you can just expand the zone. I don't think you need to change a whole lot mechanically. David talks about, maybe spreading out a little bit more, choking up a bit. I think those are good adjustments that you can make, but keep the same approach mentally. All you need to do is just expand the zone a little bit. So.
Well, I want to continue to encourage you players. You guys, all we can see is your name and a black screen up, but we want you guys to get involved. Text us your questions. And Joe, I'll give you what, when I coached at USC, here's how that worked. If you were a dude and you struck out, you hit the first 4 in the order and you struck out, you got to go up again. Mm-hmm. If you were in the middle to the bottom of the order and you struck out, there was someone else waiting for your next at bat. It was be good or find a seat. At Cal State Northridge in the Big West, our philosophy was bitter, very bitter. It was harsh. There was no, boy, you really did a good job striking out up there. There was none of that. It was every at bat mattered, every strikeout hurt our team and helped the other team. There was no softy there at all. It was harsh. And you were not welcomed with an icy cold stare or a pat on the back. When you came on the way back, you had better gotten to 7 or 8 or 9 pitches and fouled off a few. Did you get up there and you're coming back on a U-turn after 3 or 4 swings or 3 or 4 pitches? You're doing nothing for the team, and you were not rewarded with that. That was an Augie Garrido mindset that our head coach had. If he wasn't there to pat you on the butt when you came back to the bat rack after striking out.
Right.
Is harsh.
Right. And I think that from a hitter's perspective, that's kind of the way it was when I was at San Diego State as a hitter. It was very cutthroat to the point where if you don't have a great day, you can't expect to be in the lineup tomorrow. And it's like that at a lot of college programs. It's very cutthroat, and guys need to understand that that's got to encourage you to prepare better, and do a little bit more and be a little smarter with your preparation and have more purpose. It's, something that we got it. And then
see, that sounded like some of our players after they came back to the bench and got reamed,
sounds like
not very gently by our head coach.
There he is.
And I'll say this, moms and dads, that's what you guys sounded like too when we reamed your sons in the dugout after they struck out.
Yeah.
So
And I do want to say that there's, we've had over here in Southern California, we've had a number of practice opportunities. We're lucky, we're fortunate to be able to find field access. I mean, we are kind of dodging the cops a little bit, but we're doing it. We're being successful so far. Trying to maintain low numbers when we can. We don't want anybody getting sick, but if you're serious about playing baseball, and I was with the small group earlier today. Some of these players are on here. The excuses tend to set in, but they mask themselves as justified, explanations. Like, I'm justified as to why I'm not doing this extra work today. Don't let these things you tell yourself, deter you from getting, deter you from getting that extra work. So we had a practice that was roughly an hour away from a lot of our guys in the Inland Empire this last Sunday. And we knew it. Like, we knew that guys didn't show up because it was too far. But I mean, things could change very quickly right now in the society we live in, and we may not have any field access anywhere, so take advantage when we can, and you're going to wish that you took these opportunities to get extra work in and get on the field, have some fun with your teammates and your friends, and get a little better, because, this game is funny. You never know when your last at bat's going to be, or your last game's going to be. Guys that played high school baseball this year, they played this year and then their season got cut short. They probably didn't know that was their last game ever, ever competitively, and it's just, it puts things in perspective, I think, if you're paying attention,
Yeah. Joe, I got something from the Cubs pitching coach, Tommy Hotovy, later. Before we wrap up, I want to talk to the guys about Tommy.
Okay.
Now, Eric Nunez has a really good question here. Joe, you go first. With 2 strikes, do you want to battle until you get your pitch, or just try to put it in play, whatever pitch you can get that's close to the zone? Joe, you go first.
Going back to when you're expanding the zone with 2 strikes, whether you're making physical adjustments like David when he would choke up and spread out a little bit, maybe get on the plate a little bit more. Again, if you're getting that pitch that you can handle, you just you're in the position to take a very good swing. Obviously, take it. A lot of times you can't really control what +1 or +2 off the plate. So if it's 3 to 4 inches off the plate, you can't really control if you could put that ball in play hard or not. So really, what you're doing is you're swinging the bat, and you're trying to take the best one you can. It's probably not going to look pretty all the time, but whether you foul it off or you put it in play, you're just doing your best to touch the baseball at that point. If it's a good pitcher's pitch off the plate that may or may not go your way, and the umpire may ring you up if you don't swing. So I mean, ideally, you want to foul that pitch off. Ideally, but a lot of times since you're not in a strong position or a balanced position to swing at those pitches, a lot of times that ball just gets put in place somewhere. And, you know, sometimes the ball sneaks through and you get a hit out of it. You get that, excuse me, double down the line, or you get a 15 hopper that sneaks through the infield, you know.
A little shimp to center field.
Yeah, it doesn't, you know, you're not in as much control with 2 strikes. That's why it's, you know, you're not in the driver's seat. Unless you get to a 3-2 count, maybe you're going to see more pitchers attack the zone. But if you're down in the count, you're 1-2, 0-2, pitchers can nibble. They could work out of the zone, get you to chase. And you're in a position where you kind of have to, you know, so that just comes with, I think, confidence starts to build with 2 strikes over the course of time with at bats. You know, you have to have at bats.
All right, I got a question for David about that in a second. Tim, why don't you go ahead and share what you've got, please?
Well, you know, just the umpiring is so bad at the high school level that really and truly, it's really knowing your umpire. Okay, so what I do normally with my catchers is I talk to them right when we come off a defensive inning, usually the first inning, and ask, what's he liking, what doesn't he like, and then we go from there. And I give all my guys, hey, listen, he's not calling strikes in on the plate at all. So let's just take those pitches, man, and stay away from that. So, you know, it'll be, you know, a communication that way, and understanding the umpire really helps. Now, you know, I mean, for me, yeah, I battle until you get a great pitch, but the bottom line is with 2 strikes, you just want to try to get your barrel on the baseball and do something with it, you know, and that's really the plan. We do work at my school on a 2-strike approach, and it's like what David said. We get on the plate a little bit, very subtly, and we're off the knob a little bit too, like an inch and a half. And I just feel that gives some of these guys a little bit more barrel control. And I feel like when they swing like that, and when we're working and we do our 2-strike approach rounds, I have my guys do that exact thing with their stance, and they get off the knob, and they're in the mentality, and they get to stay in the cage as long as they keep getting hits, and then we bounce them. You know, so as soon as the guy gets out, he's out, another guy comes in, and it's like I challenge my guys and see who can get the most hits with 2 strikes. Well, then it starts to basically come over into the game situation, and guys get more confidence, and they have fun doing it. So, I mean, for me, that's really what I like with my guys is that, yeah, if the umpire is calling 3 balls off the plate, like Joe said, you know, yeah, we got to try to get our barrel on it and at least get a piece of it. But when that ball starts to catch some white, you know, we need to put some damage on it. That's the way I look at it.
Tim, I you know, over the last decade, I've probably seen as many minor league baseball games as I have big league games on TV. And, you know, David, you can just give me a thumbs up. Be honest with you, if you're not Miguel Cabrera or Joey Votto or Bellinger or I don't know how many guys can really intend to fight off with 2 strikes until they get their pitch.
Right.
In college ball, if you're in college, that means you're not Miguel or you're not Joey Votto. So, David, are there a lot of guys that you see, that amateur players that can fight off until they get their pitch? Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down on that. Yeah, that's a myth, Eric. I'll just be honest with you. That's a myth. Miguel Cabrera. Go ahead, David.
No, yeah. I mean, it's, you know, as an amateur, you're just trying to hit the ball. You're trying to not strike out.
Trying to not strike out.
And then, yeah, I mean, sometimes you'll just hit a ground ball and you're out. But hey, sometimes you might poke it down the line. But yeah, in pro ball, I know for me personally, like if it was down and away, like probably a ball, but you know, you don't trust the guy umpire behind the plate. I'm just trying to slap that thing to the other dugout, you know, or if it's up and in, I'm just trying to fight it off.
But you can't do that if you don't practice it, guys. Now, David's giving you some really good nuggets here, but if you don't practice that, you really can't do that, is the point we're trying to make. All right.
Yeah. No doubt. Like, you know, I had, you know, I used to have a membership to a batting cage, and, you know, it was like 10 tokens a day. So, about 18 pitches around. And I would always dedicate a couple rounds to two-strike approach where I choked up. I let the ball get, mentally, I'm thinking I'm letting this ball get right on top of the plate, and I'm trying to be quick and short, and that's what I did as a kid. And as like I said, like as you get older, you get into professional baseball, the two-strike approach kind of evolves a little bit, but it's due to having so many at bats. I can't tell a 14-year-old, hey, two-strike approach, just look for the ball and trust yourself. It's like you haven't had that many at bats in his life,
Right.
really. It's just like at that point, I was, hey, look for the ball away. Like for instance, like we would get penalized in high school. My first school I went to two high schools. I went to Westminster Christian my first 2 years. If you struck out looking at a fastball away, like we got penalized because it's like, hey, what are you looking for? 2 strikes. You now if he painted you in like on the black and it froze you, that's different. But like we got penalized, like fastball away, 2 strikes, and you took it. Like what are you looking for?
Good. That's good. Now, Bloomer, of course, if you look at Joe and David, they played back in the Stone Age, back when before guys were playing 100 games a year when they were 8, 9, and 10 years old. So way different then when they were old guys like these guys, right? Okay, we have a question again. Is it better to make physical or mental adjustments with 2 strikes? Joe, what you got?
A little bit of both. I think if you could put yourself in a better physical position to hit, whether it's choking up or whether it's spreading out or getting on the plate because you are trying to take that pitch away, like you're trying to, you're hunting that pitch off the plate, maybe, then I think that's a good physical adjustment to make. And you can keep the same mindset, you can keep the same mental approach, as far as, like what you want to swing at. You've already naturally expanded the zone by putting your sights out over the plate a little bit. Is that baby doing okay? Can you hold the baby like
Yeah, I'm trying to burp him. Oh, there he goes.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Joe.
I gotta go in a minute.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Joe.
Pedro.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that question, I think your mental sets up your physical.
Correct.
So if your mental approach is to look at that, the outside pitch or expand the zone, then it tells your physical you may want to move up on the plate a little bit or change the swing up a little bit. So I think it just goes hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I do think, it's if you are looking away, right, then you may be trying to see the ball a little bit deeper than you would normally, right? So if you don't want to get beat away, you may just change up, where you're letting the ball travel to, so mentally that's a different type of, different way to look at it. I think it's up to the hitters over time, with that bats to just kind of dabble and figure out what works. But you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. You can't not. It's almost at 15, 16, 17 years old, you can't not look away. We have guys that are still looking in like they're going to hit a ball off the wall when they've literally never hit a ball off the wall in their life to begin with. But now all of a sudden on that pitch in a 1-2 count, they're hunting a fastball in. And one thing I did like about Tony was about Tony Gwynn when I played for him and it stuck with me for a long time was, you could look middle away, you could look away off the plate, right? And then a pitcher, that's your mindset, right? And you're committed to that mindset. But then all of a sudden, right at release point, you think, what if this pitch comes in, And it literally happens so quick, like it sneaks in your head, like this could be the pitch that I hit off the left field wall, right? And then you pull off, your shoulder flies to the third base dugout, and then the pitch is right where you wanted to hunt it to begin with, right? It's middle away. If you would have stuck with that approach in that split second, you didn't lose that discipline in the split second, then you would have hit that ball in the right center gap if you're a right-handed hitter. But you lose that discipline for a split second. And he called those guys what-if hitters. You're a what-if guy. Like if you went up there and you said, you were committed to fastball away, and then all of a sudden, at release point, you thought, what if this pitch is inside, right? And that happens to a lot of guys, right? And then what happens, as soon as you're done with that, as soon as that split second's over, you go right back to thinking, okay, I'm going to hunt the fastball away. You don't even realize like your mindset shifted for a split second. At the most important time, though, at the most important time, you just change your approach for a split second, then you go back to what you wanted to do. So, bye, David.
I gotta go. Sorry, guys. But it
No
was
worries.
awesome.
Thanks
you.
for coming on.
That was longer than
Have a-
7 minutes, though.
I know. Have a good night. See you guys.
Dude, thank you.
Hey, buddy.
You know, so that was just kind of the that's something that really stuck, because I was one of those guys when he was talking about it. Like, I was a guy that really wanted to hit the fastball away. I put the tee on, I put the tee on the black away. I would work away. Soft toss was away. Wiffle balls were away. Everything was away. And then as soon as release point, game time, pitcher, at release point, I'm thinking, what if he throws me a fastball in for a split second? And I'm like, that's exactly the type of hitter I was. I was a guy who lost discipline in that split second, and that changed the outcome of my at bat completely. So you can't lose discipline there, and we can't lose to fastballs away, in 2 strike counts. And I'll tip my cap to a guy if we get beat in on a tough pitch in, that's not a whole lot you can do, especially if the guys are throwing hard. It's just you got to tip your cap and walk back to the dugout, and it's in that moment. I mean, and to kind of go back to what Phil was talking about, you don't want to strike out, but when it happens, it's got to be productive, so just make sure it is productive, and you can control that. You can control the productivity of your strikeouts. May not seem like you can, but you can. So.
All right, guys, I think we have time for one more question, at least one more. We had David there, a former middle infielder, nearly dropped his baby on our Zoom call.
I was nervous. It's like holding him by, you're not holding babies like he's a mama lion, grabbing it by its neck.
I thought he was trying to stretch the neck of his baby for a minute.
Yeah. So, but no, I really, Phil, I appreciate you kind of coming in here and getting people involved. It really helps just kind of keep the dynamic and the energy up with these things. So thank you.
All right, well, guys, give us our coaches one more question. If you can type it in, we'll take one more. Then we're going to talk about what we learned from pro baseball this week and how we want to encourage you guys to be safe. But we don't get a question here quickly. I'll go ahead and transition.
Bill, I wanted to touch on one thing that you said, that you guys would keep, right at the end of the game when you guys were at Fullerton, you'd keep a chart and you'd pull out like how many strikeouts and this and that, right? And you guys would talk about it, right? We do that as well at my high school. I have a little game card that I take notes, and I basically talk to these kids about battles, and that we need to, so many little battles on the baseball field. But I always talk about in high school baseball, there's 21 outs. So if we strike out, 7 times and fly out 7 times, we basically gave them 14 outs. They only had to earn 7. So it's like when we start to reverse those numbers and we make those guys earn those outs, it's amazing what happens, because if we're in the positive on those numbers with like less strikeouts, let's say 3 strikeouts and maybe 3 flyouts, we only gave them 6 outs in that game. I can almost guarantee we won that game every time. So those things are so important to really chart and to follow, because you teach your players, how important it is to not strike out and to not fly out. In high school baseball, those 2 elements are really huge. And we track those a lot. We track how many times a guy walks. He won that battle. How many pitches did that guy see? This guy saw 8 pitches out at bat, 10 pitches out at bat. All of a sudden he becomes super valuable. And those things are really important for kids to understand, for players to understand, that when they go into that box, they have to have the mentality that, this is a battle and I'm going to win it.
Well, Tim, I don't know if you can see it, but if you look at Coach Carlos, he has a sign that says 90 feet chart. And I think it's really important for coaches to do what you're talking about, and what he's showing us is how do you win those battles, and high probability. It's like you say, you can look at some of the, game's about process, but you can look at some of the results in game, and you can see right away a lot of how that thing's going to go. Good job, Coach Carlos. Appreciate that, brother. Very nice. Yep, big thumbs up. All right, guys, let's see. We're coming up on just about a couple minutes left in our hour. Joe, what's the schedule look like for this holiday weekend in Florida, Texas, and California for teams?
Well, Florida, I think it just got shut down for a few weeks, so they're not doing a whole lot. Texas, I don't know. They're guys as conservative.
We're out here in
as you are,
Houston.
You guys are a little bit more liberal about playing. You guys are good about it.
We're actually playing right now in the perfect game in Houston. So
Yeah,
Okay, Pedro.
they're still playing. We have teams that are scheduled not this weekend, but to go to Arizona next week, and they're still open, kind of. This is opening up with some workouts next weekend somehow. I don't know how they're getting past the governor there, but they figured it out. But again, going back to just appreciating your time on the field, it's right now it's not as much as we'd like, so get your work in when you can, have fun with the process, enjoy it. I'm going to say, if you can, I don't know, is there a way that you can record the chat on here, Phil? Do you know?
It's recording now.
But like okay, well, yeah. So really what I want guys to do is I want them to send me their address, because these are little car decals. I want to send these out to everybody.
I need one of those.
Cool.
They're like 3D. So
those are sweet.
send me your
I need-
address.
I need one.
Joe,
Kyle,
you
there's
want to
people
type in your
buddy, huh?
which email address you want them to send it to? I'll type it in the chat.
To ballfilled@gmail.com.
No.
That's a good question. Just go ahead and, because what I was thinking is, like, if we did a Q&A on here, right? Can we do
Yeah.
Q&A and are the answers recorded somewhere?
Good question. You only use this thing
Send
about 5 times a
Send it to me
day.
on my Instagram, guys. On my Instagram.
There you go.
And you'll get a car decal. They look like helmet decals. Do not put these on your helmet. Helmet decals are coming in. It's a completely different color scheme.
Yes.
Carry for your cars, okay? Cars only, or your laptop.
Carlos with who?
So, okay.
¿Qué pasó, Carlos?
Who's that? Who we got?
Bien, gracias a Dios. ¿Y tú?
Tell Carlos we said what's up. Thanks. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. And then my I'm gonna put my Instagram there for you guys if you want. Let's see here.
Yeah.
And
Let me give you guys I'm going to go ahead and type that in, Joe. This is going to be quick. I'm going to give the players. Now, players, if you can, I don't want to see your name. I want to see your faces. Go ahead and turn on video. Click on video, not stop video. I want to see your faces for all of everybody, all the players that are on here. I want to see your faces. All right, because I need your help on something. Now, Joe just typed in his Instagram. Go ahead and grab that while we're here together. But I want to see all you guys' faces. Go ahead and check in. Because we've got about over 40 guys on the call right now. I want to see all your faces, please. And moms and dads, if you're with us, go ahead. Let me see your faces.
Pedro, where's your face at?
Now, if
Hey,
you're in
man,
the
he said
bathroom-
players.
That's right. If you're
You're not a player.
if you're in the bathroom or something, don't turn on the video. But otherwise, turn on the video so we can see who's with us now.
Greg, how
All right.
come I see you on here more than I see Carter? Can't hear you. You're good.
All right. There we go. Much better. About half the guys did that. Now, guys, I want to show, if you're a player, and I can see most of you guys, show of hands here. Go ahead and leave the mic off for a minute, but show of hands, how many guys are practicing outdoor right now with the team? Raise your hand. Okay. Now, hand down. Hands up. How many guys cannot get outside and practice right now because of COVID-19 with the team? Raise your hand if you cannot do that. All right. We're going to hear a lot about COVID-19 over the next 2 to 3 days because the NBA, Major League Baseball are all testing right now as they attempt to resume. Same thing for MLS soccer and all the other sports that are restarting right now. And you and your family, your coaches, And players, some of your friends are going to tell you information about COVID-19 that may or may not be accurate. In fact, that's part of the challenge with COVID-19 is that it is unpredictable. That word, unpredictable. Now, here's something that just happened in big league baseball. I'm on a baseball group on Sundays where we do this. Tommy Hotovoy is the pitching coach for the Chicago Cubs, 37 years old, just got out of the big leagues, young guy. He's been sick for a month. A month. He just recovered from being very ill over COVID-19. He has little kids too. He's married. And he wanted to share some things that was big in the big league baseball industry today, that he told some of what has happened to him over the last month. And he said, and I'm going to read some of this to you, so this will go quickly. He said, he's only 2 weeks from testing negative after 30 days of quarantining in his house from his family. That's what his wife had to put up with a month. He said the virus was always worse at night. He couldn't sleep from midnight to 6 in the morning. He wouldn't and could not sleep. But from 6 to 10 in the morning, he'd sleep some. He had to separate himself from his family. Every night he'd get up, go downstairs, and his wife would be up all night cleaning after him to keep his kids from getting the virus. And what he says, he made it through 30 days by FaceTiming his own family inside his own house. That's how hard it was for him to get through this, and he survived physically. So if someone says to you, you're young and you're an athlete, you can't get that, that's a lie. It's not the truth at all. You guys go outside, wear your mask. If you just heard my voice, raise your hand. You go outside, wear a mask. Now, if you're a CBA baseball player, it doesn't matter where you are in the country, you wear the hat, you wear your shirt, you wear your pants, you dress up, you dress like a ball player. You carry your own bag. This is another thing you got to do right, guys. You go outside, wear a mask. Practice physical distancing, or else what's going to happen to us in Florida and Texas and California is that there's not going to be any baseball all fall or all winter, and maybe high schools are going to be prevented because of insurance coverage from allowing us to play next spring. The more disciplined we are now, the more chance we have of playing baseball next spring in high school baseball. Now, there are going to be exceptions to that. We just heard in Houston they're playing this weekend. That's good. But guys, be smart about discipline, about distancing. If you go to a party or you go to a friend's house and no one's wearing a mask, turn around and go home. Tell your mom or dad. Don't do that. In the state of Alabama this week, we learned that a bunch of people in the city of Tuscaloosa were having COVID parties where they were intentionally trying to go out and get the virus and bring it back. And they were betting on who could get it first. That's ridiculous. It's not very smart. Silly. And it may end up shutting down the University of Alabama all fall and all winter. Fellas, that's how extreme this has gotten. And it's up to you guys to know the truth. Remember the word, ball players, look at me. Look, look, look. Remember the word unpredictable. If someone says it affects everybody, they're probably wrong. If someone says it doesn't affect anybody that's young, that's not accurate. It is unpredictable. All right, that's what I have for you. 3 minutes about the truth of why all these things are different, because it's so unpredictable. And it does, the virus does impact and affect talented young athletes like you guys and your friends. Be smart. It's unpredictable. All right. Joe, that's what I wrap up today. Tommy's in a group that I'm talking with, and it's not been pretty what's been happening with him over the last month. We just learned all about that the last couple of days.
I got
So
you.
we can wrap up now.
Thank you, Bill, for your words.
My pleasure, Carlos. Bless you, brother.
so that's as far as, still finding ways to get better. These workshops are going to be here, pretty often. Even when Brian Billings isn't able to have a 15-part, webinar series for us. But continue to come back to these. Tell your teammates about this. I was with a small group of players earlier, and they said they were all going to join, and they're not all here. So it's a little bothersome. I feel like there's excuses that are being made for why guys aren't getting on here, when this is one of the few opportunities you have throughout the week to get better without having to come into contact with everybody at the same time. So anything we can do remotely to help you, we're going to. I want you to take advantage of that from here on out. Mario Soto, mental skills coach, is going to be with us pretty regularly. He's probably going to be on these calls or on these workshops here, but we might even just have a separate workshop just for mental skills, so we can make sure you're getting involved with the stuff that you want to get involved in, which should be all of this, but I guess you never know. So, all right, that's pretty much all I got. I want to thank Carlos for being here. Thank Phil. Thanks for your words. Thank you, Tim. Thanks to David Espinoza, who left us a while back, and to all the players and the families out there that join in weekly. Continue to get the information that you can from this. Take some notes if you can. I know you guys all, for the most part, have pens and paper. If not, I know you guys all have smartphones. So take advantage of these things, please. All right. Appreciate you all. Love you all. See you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your 4th of July. Stay safe.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Bloomer.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Phil.
See you, Greg.